Hi, and welcome to today's session on Conversational Insights, exploring survey responses like chatting with a researcher. My name is Pascal. I'm co-founder of Kaplena, the AI text analysis software as a service company. Well, today I have the pleasure of introducing you to a new feature of Kaplena, really fresh off the press, introducing you to the new way how Kaplena is using LLMs to generate more insights. I will focus on this new feature first and afterwards go through the overall platform from import to really bringing out specific insights through our platform. We, as market researchers and tech people and analytics people and data scientists, we love our dashboards. Dashboards are a great visual tool of showing KPIs, showing an overview of the data, showing trends. But there's also some things that dashboard rather lack. We found in our usage that it's typically difficult to show what exactly is being actually shown. So what is the data behind? What's the whole story behind this data? And secondly, also, it can be difficult to explore and navigate if you're not an expert and if you don't know what exactly you're really looking for. And typically, in today's day and age, we collect so much data, we rather don't know really what we're looking for. And spending a lot of time to actually look for this stuff is very tedious. Well, there's a new and better way. Introducing Kaplena Conversational Insights. Imagine you're a market researcher at a large airline company, and you want to look at reviews of airlines across the competition and understand better what drives the satisfaction in different segments. Well, this new way of exploring the insights straight away gives you an overview of what is in the data and gives you some context, but then also guides you through our next insight here, which is, for example, the most important topics that we've set up in Kaplena. Here we can see that really the most praise is given to customer service, to the staff, then food and drinks, and also flight experience. Whereas, for example, customer service is also mentioned in a negative way, so it's really polarizing. So that's even to somebody who has never before seen the data or doesn't understand what survey is being collected, already hear the highlights, insights that are presented here. And then it guides me further through this process and through the story of what insights are in this data, and then focusing on the sentiment and on the share of positive and negative sentiment. We can see that, for example, the pricing here on average is received very well, whereas, for example, here luggage topics are predominantly negative, and also some staff-related issues. But frequency and sentiment are not everything. We want to actually understand how does this impact the overall satisfaction? How does it impact the NPS? How does it impact the overall star rating? And here we can clearly see in this driver analysis that we're performing on the fly and rendering here is that, for example, rebooking and cancellations is a really big driver, both in terms of as a positive and as a negative driver. And it's really key that we also understand the change that it would make on the overall NPS. And it's really intuitive way to understand here a rather complex type of analysis. This driver analysis is to think about if people that mention this certain topic, for example, here staff customer service, in a negative way, what would happen to the NPS if they instead would have mentioned it in a positive way? And here we can see that it would have changed the NPS by 1 point, which is quite a significant change. So then let's take a look at what comes out next. We can see that Conversational Insights now selected a specific topic of interest, which is here the staff customer service, a very frequent driver and an important topic in our case. It has found interesting segmentations in the metadata of this dataset. For example, here, when it comes to the airline, and we can clearly see that some airlines perform better than others. Maybe no surprise there, but also in terms of territory, we see a large difference, and of course also in terms of what kind of airline we're talking about. And also we can see that, for example, first class customers are more inclined to say something negative about the customer service than other types of seat. But let's say I'm not particularly interested in the staff, but rather in the food and beverage on board. Well, we have defined a topic that we analyze quantitatively in this survey in Kaplena, which provides this great tracking. But what if I want more detail and I want to ask a specific question around what exactly about food are they dissatisfied with? And with this new interface, I can simply go ahead and ask these questions. Now, Kaplena's AI will go through responses related to food and will analyze them in more detail to provide insights on a more granular level, what exactly needs to change from a customer's perspective. So this is a really great tool to, first of all, guide new users through the process and make the data accessible to them, but also to provide them with more tools to qualitatively explore the data. So this is a feature that we're currently launching and will be available for our customers soon. What I'd like to share next is the process to ingest data and to really get it up to this point that your customers, your internal stakeholders can use these conversational insights or traditional dashboards that we both offer in the platform. Now let's take a step back and look at how we can actually ingest data into Kaplena to kick off all this amazing analysis that we later on see in the app. There are various ways of getting data into Kaplena. One is uploading a tabular file like CSV, Excel, or through our countless integrations, both with review providers, but also survey, software, and social media data. Of course, there's also an API for more advanced use cases. I will select here simply my file with these airline reviews that I previously have shown in the Conversational Insights, and will continue from there. These are approximately 10,000 reviews that the system will now process, first identifying what kind of columns are in this data, selecting the columns used for open-end automated analysis, and then it will move on to allow me to configure the project. The project can be also automatically translated. Here, as we should confirm the column selection, I will do this here. And now I will give it a name, airline reviews. Configure it with its language. This is already in English, but I could even enable the automatic translation. If I would have sensitive data, I could also enable here our anonymization feature, which removes PII such as names, credit card numbers, emails, phone numbers, etc. from the data. We don't need this here because it's public data, but a really relevant feature for our enterprise customers. After hitting save, the engine will parse all the data, do the AI analysis around it, or prepare it and already start discovering topics in the background. This can take a couple of minutes until all the data is ingested, especially if there are translations and other additional steps involved. And we have here our project around airline reviews. We're going to kick off the analysis here. And in this case, this is really my first time, hypothetically, first time analysis on Kaplana of this particular dataset. This allows me here to get a bit more acquainted with the reviews. Typically, they're rather long, some quite emotional, and also, really verbose. But yeah, a great example to showcase from really a wall of text how to get to quick and interesting insights. In this case, as I mentioned, I didn't have a prepared analysis or like a similar analysis that I did in the past, where I could simply copy over the topics, which would also allow me to compare to a different project that I might have done. But in this case, I'm just going to let the AI discover the topics. I can also add any kind of fixed topics that I might already have that I'm tracking over a long time or across multiple domains. But in this case, I'm just going to generate the topics. And this data really does contain sentiment. Again, these are quite explicit about what they think about these individual airlines or their flight experiences. Now the AI goes again through the data and distills meaningful topics via specialized generative AI that we trained on a lot of customer feedback on how humans would categorize them. Now the AI has ran through and generated topics and categories based on the data. And we can see here quite a variety of topics organized into these meaningful categories such as customer service, booking, refunds, airport flight experience, and cabin crew, for example. And the topics obviously provide more detail, but the category are really the first thing that we look at to get an overview of what is actually in this data. And the cool thing here about Kaplana is that this is not fixed and we can edit this, and it's a guided process that we can use to really make the topics our own, such that we as researcher understand the same thing as also the people that will consume the insights either through a dashboard or through a conversational interface really understand the same thing and it speaks to them. It's clear what they mean. And also they're organized in a meaningful hierarchy. Plus, of course, it's very important to make sure that all the topics that are meaningful are tracked. And this is something that we make sure by following this three-step process. First, refining the categories, then making sure that we eliminate potential overlap between topics. Next up, I can generate more topics around certain categories to get even more detail around specific areas in the customer journey, for example. After saving, and the AI will go through and assign all these topics to the relevant reviews and do so in an accuracy that is already very high. And you can already make use of this, for example, by using our dashboards or conversational insights. But really the power of Kaplana comes with adapting this to exactly your domain, your need, and also infusing it with your knowledge. As a market researcher, you know best in what context these responses were collected, what maybe how typically customers respond. Maybe they have a specific way of saying things that only in your case means something. And that's really easy to infuse into the system by giving it a few examples. You can teach the system how to specifically assign the topics to these reviews by reviewing specific examples. This really is a great way of making sure that the system is stable and really provides a coding or a topic assignment that is on par with what you would get through a full manual analysis. Already with very few of these examples, we see an accuracy compared to a full human analysis. And really this allows us to get confidence that what we're then showing in the dashboards is really meaningful trends and meaningful insights. Analysis results as a stable basis for our visualizations and insights. We're going to hop now into a dashboard that you can easily create in the application in a do-it-yourself fashion. And we can immediately see here the overall distribution of the topics. We can, of course, switch between sentiment. We can look at individual rows that are in the data. And of course, also use generative AI to summarize important findings or important voices around particular topics. And these summaries are really a great qualitative view on the data underneath it. I can, of course, also filter in my data according to my metadata that I have in there. I can share this dashboard with specific filters applied with my stakeholders. But there are other more advanced analysis that we also showcase in the conversational interface, but here more in a traditional dashboard context, such as, for example, here segmentation by NPS levels, or driver analysis, here in full-fledged with both showing the frequency of the topics and also their impact. And also, of course, any kind of fixed segmentations that I want the customers to see. And of course, there are also additional types of visualizations that we're not going to show now, but provide more detail around specific distributions and other types of analysis. This has been a short overview of the Kaplana platform, which of course offers a great deal of additional features, such as, for example, a dedicated mode to analyzing brand awareness type of questions, additional reporting functionalities, and also its multilinguality to work across many languages. To learn more about Kaplana and to try it on your own data, go to kaplana.com and book a call where we will then kick the process off with taking a look at your data, doing analysis for you, and we will be able to demonstrate how easy it is and how impactful it is to have a great analysis of your opponents on kaplana.com. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thanks, Pascal. And I can see we've got a few coming in already. Anybody else has anything to ask of Pascal, please put them into the Q&A feature there or the chat, whichever is easiest for you. People leave really long reviews when they're upset, don't they? I was looking at your WD. That's quite a lot of content for when people are unhappy. And yeah, it's money doesn't make you happy, does it? You see, the first class people are more likely to be unhappy, complain. So there you go.
Just more vocal, yeah. More vocal,
more demanding, I guess. Yeah, fair enough. Good. So I like the interface here for sort of conversational analysis. As an alternative using a dashboard. Do you think? I know this is early stages yet, but do you think there will be almost like thinking styles where some people like to have the dashboard, they like to have everything and to dig in. Other people, their whole way of thinking is much more conversational and query. Do you think you'll have different audiences for those different approaches, or do you think the conversational will replace the dashboards over time?
I definitely think there are different audiences for both kinds of tools, but I mean, just because for also how they operate a bit, conversation interface is more like session based. It's like one flow, and then sort of that's it lives in its own context, and is maybe not meant to to be shared also necessarily. Of course, it can also be, but we're working on really bringing these also more tightly together to be able, for example, then to extract things from the conversation that you could then put on the report, or specific segments that you found are interesting for this case, and then just pop them onto the report. I think that stuff like this is really a collaboration, tighter integration between the two is the future.
Yeah, I like it. We've got quite a few good questions coming in from the audience. Thanks. So just want to clarify, I think because the previous session we had was focused on, I guess, qualitative, more, I guess, fewer numbers of participants in deeper feedback. So Darlene's asking, is this primarily for quantitative data? So do you just want to clarify the types of data that work best with Kaplana?
Yeah, primarily for quant data, yes.
Yeah, so open-ended responses in surveys and reviews or complaints, that type of input. Yeah,
exactly. That's our bread and butter.
And Audrey's asking about the sort of the AI features. Is there a kind of summarization feature? So to be able to kind of write summary reports on the key insights. Is that part of the platform?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, both in the conversational aspects, of course, you can just ask it to summarize around the specific thing. It will do so by itself. And there we've also put in some rail guards to prevent any kind of hallucinations. I know like some generative AI will also just spit up some numbers. I don't know, 12% said customer service was bad, but although it was maybe 25. So we've prevented there, like really focused on the qualitative aspects for that, and that works really well. And also similarly in the reports, when you, for example, click on a topic, you get the summary associated to responses around this particular topic to get more insight around it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Roshni, you're asking about negative and positive sentiment in the responses. I think I saw where you posted that in the demo, and it was where I think, Pascal, you were creating the topics and then using that as the framework for analysis. Do you want to just talk a little bit about how you identify sentiment in there as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the sentiment is really on the aspect level. So aspect is here the topic. So you can turn it on a per topic basis, but usually most topics have sentiment enabled, at least where it makes sense. Probably not in a brand awareness question, but in these kind of complaints, obviously a lot of the topics are polarizing and you would like to track different sentiments, and it will then assign the respective sentiment with respect to that particular topic. Although, for example, the overall post could be neutral, some topics are positive, some negative, and it will be able to distinguish between them.
Great. Okay, good. Hopefully that helps answer your question there, Roshni. Ross is asking about the data sources that are in that demo. So you've got this Skytrax reviews. I guess is that sort of real data or a sort of pseudonymized data? But he's saying, could he use Kaplana to do analysis of user-generated reviews from online sources? That is one of the integrations you have, isn't it?
Yeah, we do support many review sites out of the box, like Amazon Reviews, G2, Capterra, also Google Maps if you're more like store-based. Also, for example, interesting for airlines, looking at the individual lounges at airports or specific airports. You can do that through Google Maps, for example. And also all the app stores are covered, as well as I think Yelp was the last one I forgot. So yeah, many of the big sources are already there integrated. You can just paste the link or the address for Google, and we will get it for you.
Great. Ross, I think that sounds like a big yes to whatever your question is about the source of reviews that you want to work with. And we got a couple of technical questions, and we don't want to go too much into the detail here and lose people, but maybe Jeff, you're asking, what's the underlying method for the key driver analysis that you use? Is that straightforward to answer?
Yeah, I mean, the driver analysis is always some kind of regression model behind it. Not disclosing it fully here because we have some ongoing research here that we're going also to publish on how exactly to simulate. We'll publish a report on that. I'll make sure to, if you yeah, I'll try to remember your name. Mike will help me with that. But yeah, we're gonna follow up with this. We will have a more detailed report around how exactly we're computing these things, because we see it also done wrongly many times, and I think it's quite, yeah, it's not as straightforward as you might think to compute sort of what the impact is on the NPS, for example. And yeah, there's a bit of research around that.
Okay, great. So it's not a simple answer, Jeff. Good. And Vin has got another question here about which models you're using for topic classification. Are you using the kind of public models? Have you built your own proprietary models? How do you? Is it OpenAI or Facebook Llama? Which do you use?
So, I mean, our philosophy is use the best tool for the specific job, and for the classification aspect, we still see our custom model being significantly better than what you would get through a large language model, or I mean, one better or more accurate, more in terms of similar to how a human would do it. And I mean, that's still our source of truth. And we also see that just if you use kind of this large language models, that they're very happy to assign something, but often it's then not just quite right. And want to prevent that. And there is just our own. It's also a large language model, but customized for the specific job. But then, like for the whole topic detection aspect, of course, we also use one of the available large language models augmented with our own tooling. And for the summarization, it's a similar story. Just, yeah, the right AI, we think, for the right job, for a truly generative task like summarization, like topic detection, we think it's, yeah, really the day and age to use large language models, of course, and the bigger the better. Yeah, for the classification task, we still see benefits of using our own.
Great. Okay, so again, a la carte. So you pick and choose which is the right tool for the right job. Good. Audrey, you're asking a question here, which is, I think there's two parts to it. So you're saying, can you upload IDI interview transcripts, or must the inputs provided only through completing a survey? So just to clarify, Kaplan is a solution for quantitative analysis of large amounts of open-ended feedback. So that might be hundreds or thousands of survey responses rather than a handful of depth interviews. That's correct, isn't it, Pascal? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But if you were to, I don't think you need to have those surveys completed in a particular platform. You can export and import them from whatever survey tool or data source you might use.
Yeah. And
good.
We have a few integrations there as well, for example, with Cortex, or also brand new with Brandwatch, for example, for social media data.
Great.
As well.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And just to digress ever so slightly before we wrap up, if you are interested in APIs and integrations for survey and research data, make sure you come back for the lightning demo session later today, because we've got a new standard for integrating survey data across the industry that's going to be demonstrated, and that is hopefully going to make things a lot easier and more automated to connect these different systems together. Slight digression
about that as well.
Yeah, good. Well, so Kaplan has got lots of out-of-the-box integrations with other tools already, but this will hopefully make things even easier. Good. Any other questions? I mean, I guess I have one broadly, which I think probably applies to any use of language models generally, which is about tendency to hallucinate or to invent sources and data. Is there any risk of that happening in your conversational insights interface?
Yeah, I mean, there is always a certain risk. We have put in, though, a lot of guardrails around that. So, for example, we prevent it from really actually making up insights, so the quantitative part, because we just see that it's really not accurate. So if you would ask it, what's the distribution of topics within this particular segment, it will just put in some numbers, and they are really misleading. And so we've prevented it from doing that, and mostly focused around the qualitative aspects. And for the counting bits, we then still use the Completeness AI, which is then sort of augmented by what the generative AI produces. So we still get the features, but just more in a controlled context. And we think that that's a great way of limiting the amount of hallucinations. And then, of course, also making sure that the data is anonymized and not too wild out there, containing any kind of data that would trigger also a hallucination. There's, of course, also certain, it's known that there's, for example, certain words that also trigger hallucinations because they're not in the exact vocabulary that OpenAI used, for example. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we're doing there to reduce and prevent potential hallucinations.
Yeah, great. Okay, a couple of questions from Jack to wrap up. So he's asking, is it possible to have a sort of real-time use case for the Kaplana platform? So ongoing analysis of, say, customer feedback from reviews that's coming in as a stream. Is that an application for Kaplana that's in use?
Absolutely, yeah. We have many like larger organizations that use us this way. Like you set it up once for a particular data stream, and you get it in then on real time or quasi real time basis, and can retrieve the results within seconds or minutes, depending on the volume and the kind of use case that you're operating on.
Yeah. And he's got a follow-up question, really. Does that help to improve the accuracy over time, or does it feed back into the model to improve the performance of the model?
Yeah, so we do train on these sort of reviews that the human does to teach sort of the model on how to classify things, and of course also to get more context around the specific data. Yeah.
Great.
So yes.
Good stuff. Okay, good. If anyone else has a question, you've got a short time now to post them here. Obviously, you can follow up with any members of the Kaplana team afterwards if you like. Pascal, thank you very much for answering all our questions, for doing that demo. It feels like that type of conversational interface for analysis of all types, not just for language, but for for survey data, for everything. That we're going to see some a lot more tools emerge like that. But great to see that you're early out of the box with this this new product. So thanks for demoing that, and so thanks for asking the questions. Looks like we are done with those from the audience. We've got about 25 minutes now. So you can go and get some work done, send some emails, go make a cup of tea, and do come back for our demo with Qualsy, because Paul from Qualsy, I have to say, has invested a good amount of effort to make this entertaining with high production values. So do come along to the session that we've got with Qualsy, qualitative research platform powered by AI, as everything is, for communities and asynchronous research, as well as real-time video. So Pascal, thanks to you and the Kaplana team as ever for sharing your insights, and I hope you'll all be back with us in just over 20 minutes time. Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thank you, Mike.
Bye.